So, a lot of people have been asking me my thoughts on the passing of one of the giants, one of the juggernauts in the world of boxing, which would be the great and now unfortunately late George Foreman. And I didn't want to make this video on my main TikTok page because I am heavily monetized, and this isn't one of those videos I want to profit off of. So I rather speak about it on my YouTube page and kind of get my thoughts off more and not really exploit such an unfortunate event for the Foreman family. There's not much I can say about George that you haven't seen already. The guy has one of the few great movies in the sports entertainment world. I'm not that big in sports entertainment movies, but I will say his movie was very impressive. I did enjoy that movie. So there's not much I could say about the guy. Go watch him. Like I said, he was a juggernaut, one of the greatest boxers in the history of the sport. He won the heavyweight world title twice, 20 years apart from each other. So words really can't depict such a large legendary life of Mr. Foreman. Um, it's something, it caught me off guard. I wasn't in town when it happened, so I couldn't immediately react to it, but something that's still kind of sinking in, right? George was, got to be honest, George wasn't the most technical, masterful boxers of all time, right? George was a willful boxer. George was going to find a will to win. And that's what I liked about George. He didn't have the light feet of a guy in Muhammad Ali. He didn't have the jab of Larry Holmes, right? He didn't have a go-to signature punch like a Joe Frazier. But George had a will to win, right? He was a man of Christ. George was a very powerful man. Like I said, his stature in this sport was pretty much unmatched, right? The guy's career was a movie. Not only did they later turn it into a motion picture, but he had a movie of a career. You know, with the lack of experience, winning the gold medal, right? Barely any experience in his career. The way he decimated the legendary late Joe Frazier. The fight with Ali, the fight with Ron Lau, losing to Jimmy Young, what took place in the locker room that night after his loss to Jimmy Young, stepping away from the game, stepping away from the sport of boxing, um, pursuing something outside of the world of boxing, having a true passion inside of life, not just a passion inside the ring, but George had a true passion and meaning inside life itself. He completely stepped away from boxing. Ali begged him for a rematch, right? We see fighters all the time. They come back and they fight, rematch money, big time pay-per-view fights. George had a true passion outside of boxing, and he pursued it to the fullest. Later on, he runs into some financial issues, um, and he came back, and this is why I say he's willful. He came back and he won, or we're not gonna say he won the title quite yet, but he came back and was a very successful boxer into his late 30s and up until his mid to late 40s, simply off will and passion. George didn't want to box anymore. Boxing was a thing of the past for Mr. Foreman. But like I said, he comes back. He has some tune up fights, and then he works his way into these bigger fights with guys like the first ever and only 4-time heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield, right? And this is a fight where he lost. He got pummeled in that fight. But George, from what I know, he took home $10 million in that fight. He could have stepped away again right there. He could have stepped away again right there, but that goes back to the passion in and outside of the ring, right? The financial issues, the financial burdens George put on himself was for a greater purpose. Those financial burdens he put on himself, that he took upon himself, that wasn't for personal gain. And like I said, I want to say he made 10 million for losing to Holyfield, and he could have stepped away from the sport at that point. And then he goes on to top it off. I want to say he's 45, 46 years old. The guy becomes heavyweight champion of the world, knocking out Michael Moore. Can't remember which round it was, but knocks out Michael Moore. Very underrated win. Very underrated win. We don't speak about. I want to say Michael Moore was put in the Hall of Fame. I want to say Michael Moore was a two-time heavyweight champion. You guys got to fact check me on this one, but Michael Moore beat Evander Holyfield for that title. We don't speak on these gigantic wins. We speak on the Fraziers, the Alis. We speak on that. But this guy was 45. This is a prime Michael Moore who just came off beating Evander Holyfield. And then Foreman stopped him. But like I said, there's nothing much that I could say that will give you a better depiction of this man's life that wouldn't be better than you actually going out and watching his career, watching his movie. Because from what I've seen, what I've heard, they did an amazing job kind of putting his life all into this 2 hour or so motion picture. I didn't even get into the business ventures of his Foreman Grill. He's a great businessman, made hundreds of millions of dollars in and outside the ring. But like I said, I would advise everybody to maybe take a look into his career, right? See his career for what it was. Let's not make it into something that it isn't. Watch his movie. George was a great man, a great father. He had several kids, I want to say. But it was something that caught me off guard. It is sad. Like I said, unfortunately, we do have to refer to such a great boxer now as the late great. How did you guys deal with the news? How did you guys feel about Foreman's entirety of his career?